Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Links with Friends. It is October 30th, the day before spooky season. I hope you've bought your candy. And we're here with stories about business and social media.
Now, let's take a little retrospective here and think back about what was one of the top story topics for 2024, which was massive layoffs. Constant, week after week. And some companies dipped more than once into that punch bowl. One of those companies was Microsoft.
Microsoft CEO pay raises 63% to $79 million, despite devastating year for layoffs. The 2,550 jobs lost in 2024. I don't know that 2,500 jobs in 2024 from Microsoft is all that devastating, but I can tell you that 63% of 79 million would go a long way toward paying those people that are no longer there.
No way. That wouldn't pay every single person.
Not every single person.
No, it would, I think.
Oh, it would?
Yeah.
63%?
Yeah, probably, right?
It'd be a lot. It'd be close.
Like, not all those jobs were making that much.
Yeah, we saved tons of money, and it's like,
I kept reading this article thinking, like, okay, maybe when he took the job, like, he had some sort of thing that was, like, after so many years, like, so many metrics, like, I get a pay raise. Like, I thought maybe there was a contract thing in here. But no, it was just he gets a pay raise because...
No, it is a contract thing.
Oh, is it?
It's stock price. So by firing those people, line went up. Yeah.
So he got himself a raise that way.
That's pretty common, actually.
I missed that little intricacy.
That's, I mean, Elon Musk didn't lay a ton of people off. Well, maybe they did, right? But anyway, that's where all of his money came from. Remember he had to sue?
Yeah, I remember. That's why I was thinking it was something like that. That's why I was like, oh, maybe that's what happened here. So it is. Wow. Okay, well.
Smart.
I have dark Krista thoughts about that story.
The audience loves dark Krista thoughts, but I don't think YouTube does.
No, I can't say them out loud.
That was a really good financial decision for him. I mean, yeah, maybe it was reprehensible, but it was a smart thing to do with money. Not the case for Apple Card users. They made some actually terrible financial decisions, and it's reflected on the company.
Apple and Goldman Sachs have been fined millions for misleading Apple Card holders. Actually, tens of millions, totaling $89 million against the two companies. So if you ever had any question, Goldman Sachs and Apple are cut from the same moral cloth. Part of the fine here was because Apple and Goldman Sachs misled customers. It's like, hey, you can get the fancy new iPad, and it's same as cash for 6 months. But it wasn't actually same as cash for 6 months. It was easy to accidentally put yourself in a situation where you were absolutely being charged interest on that transaction. It was not actually an interest-free transaction.
And you might be thinking, how's that different from every other credit card company? Which is a fair assessment. But here's the kicker. It was interest-free, but only if you made your purchase in the Safari web browser.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh, I hate Safari. I hate it so much. It's the new IE.
And so Goldman Sachs has decided to leave this relationship, and JP Morgan sniffing around.
Again, Apple and these banking companies cut from the same moral cloth. Apple does not hold the moral high ground. They are going to be just as reckless and disingenuous and sociopathic with your data and your money as these large banks are.
Cut from the same moral, used toilet paper. Amazon has also made a big change, and people are hyped about it. I've noticed this. It's now just crumbled up paper.
I like that. I compost that.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I guess it's fine.
Amazon says it ditched plastic air pillows because they were killing the whales. Whales would eat it, get choked on a large-ish piece of deflated plastic bubble.
My cat's happy about it because he didn't like it when we had to go through and pop all of them.
You don't have to pop them. You can just cut them.
Yeah, but they still make a noise. It's much noisier, and that's upsetting to Cricket.
I think there's a company that has a patent on a water-soluble version of that. It's like...
Microplastics?
Yeah, it's probably... It's like, it's cornstarch and microplastics, but then when you add water, it's just microplastics.
Yay!
I'm fine with the paper.
Yeah.
Paper's fine.
Yeah, the paper does the job.
And actually, you know what? I could have put this in the government one, right? Because it's kind of like the other ones. But this is another government agency who has said, hey, this is a terrible thing you're doing to your customers. It's probably illegal. You need to stop. And they're insane somersaults, mental gymnastics to try to explain to you why, no, this is good for users.
The Ars Technica headline, this is a little more information than what we had last week, but the headline is T-Mobile, AT&T, etc. oppose unlocking rule, claim that locked phones are good for users. But if you have a pulse, you are smart enough to realize that that is not true.
So what is the argument? Well, we want to give our users discounts, but the only way we can give them those discounts is if we lock them in.
T-Mobile does not really do that effectively.
And Verizon is already what the rule is. So obviously you can have a horrible company and still do this and still make your outlandish profits. So kind of rings hollow. And oh boy, do the tax prep companies have the worst argument of all.
The Verge's headline, which is a headline, it's a meta story. It's a story about a Verge story. Intuit asked us to delete part of this Decoder episode. We declined. So Decoder is The Verge's podcast, and they had a podcast with the CEO of Intuit, who said some things about AI and tax processing and the complication of the U.S. tax code that when you really think about what he was saying, it was like, oh, he said the quiet part out loud. Oh dear. And they were like, hey, can you just like delete that? And the Verge said, nah.
The topic was simplification of the tax code. Because, again, anybody with a pulse knows that that's not good. It's a stupid thing. It allows loopholes for very rich people and corporations to not pay taxes while the poorest get destroyed by them. And, you know, they don't have the means to get around it. And so this guy was like, oh, yeah, we've always supported simplification of the tax code. And then the Verge person was like, well, hang on a minute. Here's where you lobbied against it over and over and over. And then there was just sort of circular logic after that. Very embarrassing. I understand why he wanted it to be deleted. I kind of want him to be deleted.
Dark Ryan.
And this was maybe the tech story of the week. And if you are at Qualcomm, it has not been a good... you know what? It's not going to be a fun Halloween for you.
ARM to scrap Qualcomm chip design license in a Feud escalation. So Ian, Tech Potato, had a really good video on this where he sort of does a deep dive into what's going on with this. And this is... it's the nuclear option, but it's also a little bit of posturing and a little bit of corporate intrigue. You know, Qualcomm's playing it a little fast and loose maybe with what they have, and ARM thinks that Qualcomm is hurting the ARM ecosystem, which is perhaps not untrue, or at least it seems like ARM thinks that Qualcomm is hurting the ARM ecosystem.
We saw last week that Qualcomm had that dev kit, and they just couldn't get it done. It's like, we're giving up.
People that actually bought it received a refund, or that actually received it, got a refund. They only made like 200 or 300 of them, and people that actually got them, they were just like, screw it, we're out. They're refunding it all. Rumor has it that part of the reason for the refund is maybe the processors were not supposed to be bundled like that. Like maybe Qualcomm is not supposed to sell parts directly to the end user, and now it's like, oh, that's a violation. And it was like, oops, our bad, here, have a refund. But also that dev kit was kind of a smoking pile of incomplete mess. A little column A, a little column B.
Well, they do have new stuff. Don't focus on any of that. Focus on the hot new product that
Consume
they're
new
trying to
product.
sell. Yeah.
Qualcomm brings laptop-class CPU cores to phones with its Snapdragon 8 Elite, according to Ars Technica. They had their big event in Maui. That looked interesting, especially with the intrigue of like, surprise, we've canceled your licenses.
What a great infographic.
They also were bitter about performance of Intel Lunar Lake. So the Qualcomm marketing was oddly focused on saying, no, look, Lunar Lake is slower when you unplug it from battery. But my experience is it is a little bit, but not as much as what Qualcomm was showing in their benchmarks. So Qualcomm, I think, is perhaps salty that Lunar Lake is actually as good as it is.
Well, you mentioned maybe that processors shouldn't have been sold like that, and there are a lot of rules. It's a bit of a minefield to try to get all that right with sanctions and everything. But this one was well known. I don't think anybody can feign ignorance here.
TSMC halts chip supply to customer after finding it in a Huawei product, source says. Now, this is interesting because TSMC did this apparently unprompted, or TSMC detected that the walls were closing in around its customer and said, wait a minute, that's just Huawei wearing some Groucho Marx glasses.
Let's see who this really is.
So TSMC said, oops, our bad. Here you go. Here's all the info we know. Sorry. But how much other stuff like that is happening?
And speaking of oops, our bad, these hot new Nvidia chips that everybody is clamoring for had a bit of a problem, and apparently there was some fake news.
Nvidia's Jensen Huang admits that AI chip design flaw was 100% Nvidia's fault. TSMC not to blame when the now fixed Blackwell chips are in production. He said that reports of tension with TSMC were fake news.
If you're looking for a useless item to buy somebody this holiday season, you can't go better than a VR headset. And maybe you don't want to break the bank. I mean, obviously you're not going to get the Apple one, right? Nobody has the $3,500 for that. But how about a budget option that is, it's got a number next to it that might be a bit of a deception.
iFixit's MetaQuest 3S teardown reveals a Quest 2 hiding inside. So it uses a lot of the same Quest 2 parts. The LCD is a little different. It's maybe got better spatial sensors. It's going to be, what was it, $249 or something, and then $499 for the expensive one. The controllers are separate. So it's an incremental improvement.
$299 versus $499.
Well, $299 and $499 for the different models or something, I guess.
It's not a good buy. Don't get it.
I don't know. Beat Saber's kind of fun, but that's about it.
For $300 or $400.
Yeah, it's not that fun.
I paid more for an elliptical.
I think you're going to get more real world returns.
Oh, yeah. It's got some mileage on it.
And we see stories like this. Now, this is interesting because this is not speculative, but we don't actually know how to harvest this yet. We have to figure that out.
Arkansas may have a vast lithium reserve, researchers say. So they got a beautiful map, and they're like, we really need to drill in this area because this could be just an obscene amount of lithium. And early geologic indications and some older surveys that were done a long time ago, reanalyzed with modern tools, definitely point toward vast lithium deposits.
Machine learning, they were testing the water, but they have to figure out how to get the lithium out of the water and waterlogged parts of the geology.
Bad news if you're some sort of rare endangered animal who lives in that area.
Oh, very bad news.
It'd be amazing if we found an animal that can run off lithium or mercury in the water. We need more of those genes, and we'll just splice those genes in everybody.
Right on in. What's the worst that could happen?
But if we ran on lithium, then they would control everything we do because there's only so much of it. You can't grow your own lithium. And Huawei, with their stolen chips, are continuing to try to separate themselves from that supply chain because they see the writing on the wall, and they've made a big step.
Huawei makes divorce from Android official with the HarmonyOS next launch.
Younger model.
On the day that Tim Cook came to town, too. Interesting. That's not subtle at all.
The original HarmonyOS ran Android apps. This one will not. Got to be completely bespoke, but they've got all the big Chinese companies on board. They've all got apps ready for it. So don't worry.
Oh, this might be a good video opportunity for Linux. Remember Red Star Linux came out? It was like, that
was Korea, North Korea. Right?
Yeah, and it's like let's install that. What's the worst that could happen? The State Department calls. It's like, wait, what are you doing?
Well, Adobe is maybe feeling the heat because they've made some very controversial AI decisions lately. They've made some very controversial licensing decisions this year, and they really want to make their customers like them again.
The Verge's headline is Adobe to make its painting app completely free to take on Procreate. I'm hitting the FTC button to be like, this seems like something Adobe should not do because this is a trap. Like as soon as Procreate doesn't exist, Adobe is going to charge you an obscene amount of money.
It'll be in their subscription plan, like everything else. Whereas Procreate, I spent $20 for like 5 years ago, and it still works perfectly. And they don't, use all my shit for AI, so there's not really a competition there for me as a creative.
Yeah, again, Adobe's just...
You also
Worst.
may have identified one of the motivations for it is it's not free if they're stealing your work for AI.
Yeah.
You are making some payments.
You are the thing, the product. Blech.
And that's true whether you are a poor individual consumer or a giant mega corporation, because there's always another giant mega corporation looking to drink some of your milkshake, and Disney has had enough.
Disney and Apple are breaking up over App Store fees.
A lot of breakups and divorces this week in the business
time.
section.
Tough time for corporate romance. So they say, hey, we don't want to pay you 15%. And now that the laws have changed and we can just direct our customers to the website to pay for this, we don't really need that anymore. Which is true.
Heartbreaking. Worst person you know makes a great point.
And AAA Gaming, boy, they've taken some hits this year, haven't they? So quite a few misses lately, and this one didn't even get a chance to miss.
Netflix closes its AAA game studio before it ever released a game. Studio known as Blue was developing a multi-platform AAA game from original IP when Netflix was like, you know what, let's just not do this.
We learned last week that Netflix is losing money and raising prices because the whole password sharing thing, that's over now. No one else is going to transfer off of that. So how do we make the line go up next time?
This seems crazy to not even let them release. Like, that's just money down the drain.
I've actually canceled the Netflix account. No more next Netflix account.
Well, it's about time.
Yeah, it was long overdue.
I'm where you were with Xbox Game Pass. It's time, but for some reason I haven't done it yet.
Our chat has been making fun of you because every time you're like, I need to cancel that, they go, do it right now. Like, pause the game you're playing. Let's just do it now, and you won't do it.
I do use it like maybe once every 2 weeks. Is that worth the money a month? Probably not.
You know what's fun to do is to take the same amount of money and spend it on good old games every month. Like, set a calendar reminder to be like, today's new good old games day. And you can go to good old games and look at it and be like, wow, I actually bought a lot of crap today for $25.
But I'm so ashamed of this, but I don't use good old games because it's not convenient like Steam is. What have I become?
It's gotten a lot more. There's an amazing launcher for Linux that integrates good old games and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I found that on I find myself using good old games a lot more just because the Linux launcher is so much better than the one for Windows.
But they've got their own launcher now.
But, yeah.
When Gaben dies, maybe. And Roblox.
Don't even say that out loud.
I'm always shocked to find out how big Roblox is. Every time I learn it anew, and I'm like, what? Really? There's that many people, and there's those kinds of numbers? But there was Hindenburg Research, who are short sellers, who release the public data. They sell it short, and then they release scathing research about it. They said that it was a hive of villainy, and they've made some changes based on that.
Roblox's new child safety changes reveal how dangerous it's been for years.
I mean, it's the internet. You should be paying attention to what your kids are doing online, regardless of where they're doing it.
Totally agree with you 100%. It's the parents that need to deal with this. But they pointed out how few, I think it was 5 clicks to get into an account. You could put any date you wanted. Nothing got verified. And, where's the pictures?
Is there continue reading? There you go.
Oh, there it is. So without any verification of any kind, take you 5 clicks to get to this in Roblox.
This is just Gmod.
A game for children. Also, a certain document format might have been very prevalent on the site. Yeah. An Adobe document format, in case some people don't know that reference, we're not allowed to say. And here's a fun story about how you start out in college or right after college thinking you're going to change the world, and then reality hits you like a ton of bricks, and you take the money.
This app set out to fight pesticides, but after venture capitalists stepped in, now it helps sell them. It's like, oh, this pesticide is not completely terrible. It's like, wait a minute, this is Monsanto telling me this.
This is still not great.
So the idea was this was an AI tool. You'd snap a picture of your plant with its leaves being devoured or whatever. It would say, here's the pest you've got. Here's what to do about it. But they couldn't get venture capital until the what you're going to do about it became sell them pesticides. But it was supposed to prevent overuse of pesticides.
It turns out big neem oil wasn't enough.
Neem oil is like one of the more mild ones if you have to use one. Like I'll use neem oil.
Yeah, that doesn't just like hurt the ground or anything.
It's fine. Yeah, and I use diatomaceous earth sometimes if I have like ant problems. But.
Yeah, also not horribly engineered solution. Yeah,
I don't think they threw any money at this app.
No, I don't think so either. I think they're just like, okay. You know what I usually do if I have a really bad infestation of like squash bugs? I just go out with soap and water and pluck them off the plant and kill them, which is not something that's scalable. But
actually, it might be scalable now with new
with
AI
robots,
tools.
Yeah, with the lasers.
It's like, what is my purpose?
You kill the bugs.
You kill the squash bugs.
So now are we going to have these people trying to regulate against robots?
Oh, yeah.
To maintain that?
I guarantee you there's like an 8 or a 12-person committee inside of Monsanto right now that is, how do we buy up and or stop the robots?
They're devoted to that, yeah.
Can we get some orphans and put them under the robots and have them killed? That would be a great PR.
I mean, for as much as farmers are already spending on pest control systems, the fact that you could do it with a robot and that's basically a one-time purchase with minimal maintenance and the positive environmental impact, I mean, that is world-changing technology.
You say one-time purchase with minimal maintenance. John Deere says, I don't think so.
Subscription plan, baby. Let's go with the Adobe route.
Yeah, it's like, do you know how much the farmers are paying for these chemicals? And the robot's so much more complicated. They got to pay more.
Well, moving over to social media, we all know that if you come out with a true end-to-end encryption app, you will immediately be harassed and probably arrested at some point. But now they're not even waiting for you to succeed and launch your product. As soon as you conceive it, you will be visited by the thought police.
Encrypted chat app Session leaves Australia after a visit from police. Basically, one of the police showed up at an Australian employee's house to ask questions, and they said, you know what, that was weird and uncomfortable. We're going to Switzerland. Can't say I blame them.
Yeah.
Australia is definitely the test bed for the horrible future.
It is. I don't know how to describe it, but the machinery that now exists to redirect discourse around, we need to not regulate this, but they've turned it around into, oh my gosh, no one should be able to say anything online unless it has been explicitly approved, is kind of disturbing.
Kind of.
Like, I mean, some of the messaging has been very effective at convincing randos that that's a way out. That's not a way out.
Yeah. We've got, I would say, the majority of the population screaming for censorship at this point. It's a brilliant play, but terrifying.
Yeah.
It's not a future that I'm going to enjoy. But there is one big exception to that, of one class that you're never allowed to say anything about, and there's no real explanation as to why.
Well, there is one.
Almost anything goes on social media as long as it doesn't make billionaires feel even a little bit unsafe. So there was this amazing Twitter account before Elon bought Twitter that was just tracking private jets, including Elon's. And now the dude that does that has nowhere to go because all the social media platforms are like, I don't think we want your kind
I
here.
think he said he had 60 canceled accounts.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
And Facebook. This has
Meta.
spread to Facebook and other social media. Nobody tolerates this. Even though it's important to point out, this is public data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can go on the FAA website, I think, right? And you can look this stuff up.
Or like flight radar.
I also want to juxtapose this after some of the comments from Senator Elizabeth Warren in the show that we did on Monday, and also just the tracking of everything else. And it's like, and also the flock cameras. And it's like, if the billionaires are this uncomfortable for something that is relatively minor, when we look at what flock cameras are doing and when we look at what's happening everywhere else, something seems wrong about this situation.
But also, let's go back to what you said in the beginning there, which is the people screaming for censorship. Because in this article, this is a CNN article, and Allison Morrow screamed for censorship at every point in this article except for the billionaire thing. She pointed out that X was this lawless wasteland that we should all hate because you're allowed to say what you want there. So she's not really fighting the good fight here.
It's weird though, because if we got our community together and we paid for a feed of data from Flock, well, they would cut us off. There was no amount of money that we could give them to get that feed. If we built our own crowdsourced Flock network and then streamed it onto Twitter, guess what? That's going to be shut down too.
Yeah, because we'd find out that all the local politicians were going to the meth hotel a couple of times a week, and then we'd be arrested. And you know Elon Musk would love to be able to have people arrested who are looking at his flight plans.
Well, they pointed out, even Taylor Swift, like her lawyers had drafted up things that were like cease and desist letters to those guys to be like, no, you can't publish that, even though it is public.
Even Taylor Swift, and she's perfect.
That's basically like what they said in the article, and I was like, okay, get out of her ass a little bit. That's fine.
And I guarantee you that both of those people have apps on their phone. Their location is being tracked in exactly the same way, just perhaps not as much in the open.
Well, I mean, in Taylor Swift's case, she literally, like, it's on the website. She's touring the country constantly. We know exactly where she's going to be. And over in Ireland, they have looked into some things that LinkedIn were doing, and surprise, surprise, they were anti-user.
LinkedIn fined more than $300 million in Ireland over personal data processing. Turns out that data that was supposed to be processed in Ireland and not leave Ireland, because, again, the same thing about, like, people make copies of the data. It was not processed in Ireland. It was processed elsewhere, and there's God knows how many copies of it now.
300 million, they made more than that doing it. It's always the case. And Twitter, you know, it's got a waning popularity, I guess, although people still seem to flock to it. But for whatever reason, and they have no explanation here, TechCrunch, not in India.
X's India revenue has fallen by 90%, as filing shows.
What's kind of weird web design we got here? Look at this.
This is like almost like a quote legacy article. Like it doesn't have the green header like all the others do.
And the tiny, tiny little
Headline. Yeah, that's
under
not an
the
H1.
byline. I don't know if I like this. It's an in brief, I guess, right?
Oh, is that
what we're
like when
doing
The
here?
Verge does those ones where it's literally just like a social media post?
I mean, it's a couple of paragraphs.
Yeah, that's longer than the social post. It's odd.
Although they did offer no explanation as to why, just gave us numbers. So yeah, I guess that works as an in brief. We've got no information on this, but we're still going to make you click on it.
Yeah, and we're reporting on it, so you know.
Well, I would like to know. Maybe we got some Indian viewers who can weigh in on that. And God, you had to see this one coming, right? I mean, the owner of this place probably got more PR out of it than this would hurt them, but you had to know.
Yelp disables comments on the McDonald's that hosted Trump after influx of one-star reviews. Aw, a bunch of people leaving one-star reviews that haven't even been to that McDonald's.
That was such a great story. A lot of people questioning us like, I don't even think this was real.
You know, the really horrifying thing, though, is that if the mindset, like was in the other article about the billionaire surveillance, follows through to something like this, it would say, oh, yeah, you can leave a one-star review if we look over your location history to confirm that you've been to this particular McDonald's.
Or you can you can scan your adult access pass so we can confirm your identity. That's what they want, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are quickly heading into that future. That future is basically already here.
Yeah, so you see that on product reviews sometimes where it'll say like this person purchased this or this person did not purchase through Amazon or something like that.
On Steam, you can't review it unless you bought it through Steam now.
Yeah.
And we're heading into that world, and we are already deeply into the world where parody has died.
Oversight Board says Meta's handling of satirical image of Harris and Walz raises serious concerns.
And Engadget.
They didn't post the picture.
Looking for the picture, Engadget.
They described it, though.
You're too cowardly to post it, aren't you? It was the movie poster from Dumb and Dumber.
But with their faces on
With those two faces. So it wasn't like...
It wasn't like an AI deep fake where it's like, oh, maybe that's real. It was very clearly a parody.
Yeah, it obviously wasn't real because the faces don't fit the bodies at all.
Who hasn't seen Dumb and Dumber and thought it was hilarious?
Well,
and brilliant?
I mean, that was a long time ago at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to... I would like to think... Well, you know, I would like to think that something like that wouldn't sway someone, but...
Here's a question. You've never seen any movies. Have you seen Dumb and Dumber?
I have seen Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, okay.
Long time ago, but I have seen it.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
Well, we all saw it a long time ago.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Anyway, that's it for this week, or not this week. Oh my gosh, we still have a whole episode, AI and nonsense, on Friday. We will see you guys then. Bye!